Welcome back to Series 6 by fourthlocation.com. Scott and I are here talking with another guest about another topic. Today, I really wanted to talk with Devilish specifically about the Marvel Snap themed game show, Snapprentice. You may or may not be familiar with it, but it's something that I competed on in season 1, and then I have helped run in season 2 and 3. We have just finished running season 3, a month ago?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for welcoming me on. I do appreciate it. So Snapprentice. I did want to touch very, very quickly on a bit of an origin story because I think you'll find it a bit amusing.
I don't know it.
Well, cast your mind back to a meta, including Leech and Leader. We're talking 3 years ago now, roughly, and I'd only just started streaming, really. I'd been probably streaming, I would say, about 3-4 months at this point in time. So I had barely any viewers. I knew a few people and I had some friends that I was kind of chatting to as well. And I was like, how am I going to get more viewers? What am I going to do? And someone said, well, collaborate, collaborate with other creators, speak to people. And I was like, I don't really know these big names. I was sitting there watching Cozy and Alex doing the doing their snapcast and stuff, and that was it really. So I was just like, right, who do I speak to? How do I get something going? And I was chatting to a few of my mates, and I was actually asked to join a little bit of a team. This is before Power On. With a couple of friends, and Ika was in there. So I've actually known Ika, probably was the first creator that I knew to talk to regularly. And he's just like, we need to just have some more fun with this. Everyone's being so serious. And it was a real stingy Leech Leader meta at the time as well. And everyone was just like getting really annoyed with it. And I was just like, I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy just streaming and just playing the game without there being some fun involved as well. So the whole idea behind this was that how can I do something that lets me collaborate with other people and get out of the funk that the Leech Leader meta was putting me in, just to kind of have some fun. And that's kind of where the whole ideation stuff started and what I wanted to do. And then it was like Gameshow seemed like something pretty cool, but then it was how the hell do I get other people to want to be involved and actually be part of this as well? And I didn't even have Discord at this point in time. So this was like I messaging people, sending DMs on Twitter, to see if people were interested. I think yourself was one of those, Lauren. So, from chatting to people. So. And then when I then got into the creator program, I then opened up a load of names that I wouldn't have known previously that were also in the creative program. I was like, all right, cool, excellent. So I can start messaging a few people from there. So that's kind of where it all came about. It was my want and need to firstly collaborate with others and cheer myself up from Leech and Leader.
Yeah.
So how did you hammer out the actual format from that point? So you had that seed of the idea. Then how did you come up with the idea to structure it around like little quests and things like that?
So I'm a big fan of the show The Apprentice, the UK version. So Alan Sugar at the helm. We won't talk about the other version, but big fan of the show. Used to love watching that on TV and stuff myself. And then I suddenly thought it would be quite cool to have teams versus teams. And I think there was someone else. It might have been oh Christ, who was it? Felicity, maybe. Felicity had a tournament that she was running where she'd got teams versus teams, and I quite liked the fact that there was people battling and having those kind of team format against each other. And then I thought, if I could do something based on a TV show, like steal the format, if you like, and then just make that for Marvel Snap, what would it be? And I toyed around with Big Brother. I toyed around with ideas for as I say, The Apprentice, I used to really, really enjoy. And then that was kind of the one where I kind of landed on, mainly because I could change the name and just put Snapprentice and make it a pun. It came off the tongue a little bit better. So it was kind of like, this will be cool. and then trying to work out how many people I'd need in each team, how long. That was more if I want it to run for X number of shows over X number of weeks over a period of, say, 3 months, then I will need this many people in each team. That's all that was literally came about from. Expanding it means it goes on for longer, and we need to come up with more tasks, etc.
Right.
So that was that. But back before season 1, I didn't have any help behind the scenes in terms of coming up with the tasks beyond a friend of mine that lived locally, who I also knew played Marvel Snap. And we just went and had a coffee one day like we do. We used to meet up quite regularly, and we were chatting then, and I had my notes app out on my phone, and we were chatting and go, what would be some cool things to do? Like make the biggest null, I think, was the first ever Snapprentice task. And then we had one which was have 3 lanes that were equal in power but without using Tribunal. So it was, I think it was the lowest ever negative overall, wasn't it? I think from season 1. I can't remember. Yeah. It was kind of trying to think of things that we could make people do that weren't necessarily things they would ever normally do in Marvel Snap, but that would be quite fun. And then I realized as well then that not everyone would find it fun to just do that task, those type of tasks every single week. So that's where we came up with some of the more creative tasks as well, to kind of give people have different strengths. Some people are better in certain archetypes than others. Some people are better at more tournament and more competitive, in terms of skill levels. And then some people are a bit more creative. If I had to put myself in a camp, it would be in the creative camp. So, I don't think I could do any of the tasks that we've been setting some of these people in terms of the math stuff. I would help, but I wouldn't be the person coming up with the solutions. But that's what I've got Lauren for. So
I think that's a big part of what's made it so successful and enjoyable as a show is you have a diversity of candidates. We have people with different genders and sexual orientations and backgrounds, and that's all great. But also you have a diversity of players or candidates on like what platform are they the biggest on? And like, you had me on there. I was just a writer at the time on Snapzone. But you have other people who are streamers or YouTubers. And yeah, like you were saying, some people are much more competitive, like in the game, mathier people, and others are, their content is a different type of content. And so we have challenges that cater to all of that. In the first season, we had more challenges that were, or we had challenges that were also very oriented on like your social platform. Like we had like Twitter polls and stuff like that. And I think that was a really good thing to remove so that we could lean into the diversity of creator size going into seasons 2 and 3.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think that was more around the side of, it was at the time, that was one of the big reasons I think I got into the creative program myself. So for the game was, the size of my Twitter page is fairly substantial, and I had a lot of followers on there, and I felt like it would be a good way to potentially help to drive a little bit of interest in the show was by having that on Twitter. And I used to do, I don't know if you remember on season 1, after the show each week on the Saturday, I would sit there and I'd do a playback of what happened, recap. Basically like a recap thread. And then I started doing those, but that took more time than producing the show on the Friday night. I was just like trying to remember actually what happened, and then moving stuff from my slides into my phone so I could post it and stuff. It was just like, you know what, this is I maybe only do this for season 1, and then we can just forget that. And then I think some people have moved around. We've had different social platforms that obviously have come up as well. So Blue Sky and the demise of Twitter as it became X. A little bit.
Totally. So, Snap Twitter was different back then.
Yeah, it was absolutely. So yeah, I didn't want people to feel like they had less of a chance because they didn't have as big a following, because that's not what it was about. And I feel like some of the tasks that were, like you said, the more social media linked tasks in season 1 did make that a little unfair for some people. But we learned from it. We didn't bring it back for season 2. So
right. And yeah, all the better for that. Gosh, there's so many things I want to talk about. One of them is I've seen some of this now that I've been behind the scenes for seasons 2 and 3. but I want to talk about like what's it like running the show week to week. How much is planned ahead? How much are we doing by the seat of our pants? Stuff like we have twists in the show, like hostile takeovers. I won the first season after being eliminated from the
You
show.
did indeed.
Like, how does that happen? Like,
so just to briefly explain, a hostile takeover is, I mean, if you've seen reality shows, you'll have seen these sort of things happen where, mainly on Big Brother, this is probably a hostile takeover thing. It's kind of like a secret task. So it's a task where, as much as we've got teams, it's a way of me creating a little bit of drama or a little bit of tension amongst those teams without them knowing what the other people have said. So we've used ones where we will get them, and we usually theme it around a card of sorts. So we would use Cable or Viper, for example, and we'd ask them to play those cards by choosing a person to nominate. So if you Cable someone, you are choosing that's the person you want to steal from the other team. Or Viper is one of your own team members that you want to send to the other team. So we've done that, and we get them to vote and stuff. And it was quite fun to kind of insert those randomly. So those, I knew roughly which weeks I'd need to do them in, and it kind of would work depending on how many people I would need for the following tasks. So whether I needed an even or an odd number, depending on what the type of task was. That's kind of how we do it. And I'd also kind of wait a few weeks into the season for people to start building that team bond together and start working for each other and stuff, and make it all friendly, and then start to sprinkle in the chaos a little bit. So that's kind of the fun behind Hostile Takeover. That stuff, I mean, even for the most recent season, for season 3 there, I didn't really share ahead of time, even with the staff team, exactly when I was going to do the hostile takeover for season 3. Season 2 had a lot of hostile takeovers. I think we did 3. And there was about 3 in season 1 as well, but we only had 1 in season 3. So yeah, sorry, season 2 had 3. Season 1 had 3. We only had 1.
Season 3 had some extra twist that came about naturally because we had I think we had twice where the teams were imbalanced by more than 2 candidates, and so when that happens, we move a candidate over randomly, and that's kind of a big twist on its own.
Yeah. So it wasn't needed as much then either, because that kind of, like you say, it shook things up a little bit anyway doing that. So it was quite fun to kind of see when and how much we would need. I had a couple of other ideas in the back pocket, but I can always use them for season 4, can't I? So
that's right. Yeah, we have a long list of task ideas too.
In terms of those task ideas, so Lauren, after winning season 1, came on board for season 2 in the background to kind of support me with things like task ideation. And that was mainly, we call our little taskmaster, and coming up with the ideas for tasks. And we would generally just bounce ideas off each other, and then for season 3, that staff role, once we had the Discord set up, we could have a bigger team. So we brought on board a couple of former candidates as well. So our season 2 champion Sammy and Father Newman as well, who'd been a candidate in both seasons 1 and 2, came on board the staff team. We've since added Lufku, who's been a candidate in all 3 seasons. So once he got eliminated this time round, we brought him into the staff team. And having that group of people to all come up with ideas for tasks really helped us to kind of build a list. Like you say, we've got a pinned list of tasks that we still need to sort out, don't we, in the server. But it gives us ideas that even if it's something that isn't quite right, or someone will come up with a thought of an idea, because you've got others you can bounce that idea around off, we sometimes then tweak it, and then it becomes whatever the final task is. We also had to, after the chaos of season 2, an early season 2 when the game broke, we had to start adding bans and banned cards and banned locations, because the candidates were regularly breaking the game. So it was crashing, causing crashes, all kinds of stuff, which was then obviously causing problems with the content for the show each week, because we were like, are we going to have any submissions? Because is the game going to work long enough for it to actually, actually be ready for the show on the weekend. So.
Right. I think the game task design might sound easy at first glance. Like if you go back to the first season, we had biggest Human Torch, biggest Null. Like that is pretty straightforward. I think in season 2 we had like biggest Apocalypse. Like these things are just like, yeah, can we just do that for every card? But it's like, no, because we've solved that. We know if you use Wong and Scroll and Shuri, you can hit 2.1 billion power, which is the integer cap, with any card.
With any card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so the task design has gotten a lot more complicated because it's both making it something that is like actually achievable without crashing the game, but also like interesting. That's not just has a straightforward solution to hit maximum power. And so some of the ones that we did in season 3 that were different, we had one where it was have your Carnage eat the most cards. We don't care how big Carnage is. He has to actually eat cards to do it. And I don't remember how many the winning Carnage ate, but it was a massive number using Leader.
It was in the thousands, wasn't it? I think in the end, I forget off the top of my head.
They were using like Odin on Leader they were using Leader to constantly reproduce an Odin to make the Carnage eat the Odin over and over. It was incredible. Super creative solution, but also like stressing the game out. There's only so far you can take Wongs and things before the game just crashes. And so that's part of the band design too, is making it so that people don't just have to grind every single possible variation to find the best solution that doesn't crash the game.
Yeah.
When was it that they first introduced fast forward into the game?
Oh, that was quite early, I think. That's probably.
It was. I think it was after season 1, though. I think, right?
Could be.
I think you're right.
So you guys must run into that as well.
Towards the end of season 1, we did start having some crashes. And so that was, as a player, that was extremely frustrating.
I think
because I had an idea I knew could work, but I had to keep scaling it back until it didn't crash the game.
we had a crash in the very first task. So when we were, or a type of crash, I suppose, is when they were trying to make the biggest null, and they went they went so far into integer negative or into positive, it turned negative, and they had a negative massive null because it had gone too far.
It overflowed into the negative integer.
Do you guys do a bug report when you crash? You're kind of stress testing the game for second dinner, right? Honestly, you should do that just as practice. Tell all the contestants, if you ever crash the game, do a bug report immediately, because you're kind of stretching the limits of the game. And then somebody back at second dinner gets to see that.
Yeah, personally, with all my silly clips that I do, which I don't know, maybe Snapprentice is what got me into that. But all those silly clips that I do report a lot of bug reports. I'm like, just, second dinner, let us do the silly things with your game that we want to do. You have all these great cards. Let them interact with each other in explosive ways. And
but at the same time, you guys are all finding stuff that they would never have dreamed of doing.
They're not expecting. No one's ever tested it. Yeah.
There's things that I've learned because of Snapprentice. Like, I've seen a minute long fast forward. Like some of the really complicated interactions, the fast forward gets longer and longer. And I didn't realize that was a thing until we were throwing just absurd tasks at it.
What's some other stuff you've learned about the game or how the game works? Like by stressing.
Yeah, I mean, there's the integer wrapping around.
The integer wrapping around is really interesting.
Yeah, and I think later it was used intentionally. They intentionally maxed out a null and then destroyed something else to make the null hit the negative because it was a challenge for smallest power. It was very clever.
Yeah, so I've learned that there is this very specific number of Wongs or versions of Wongs you can have on the board for it to not crash, which is, I think, something like 5, is it? Lauren?
Yeah.
5 or
that
6,
sounds right. Yeah,
they're about. So yeah, we limit the amount of those as well. So we're like, right, we know if they've got multiple scrolls here, we've got a problem. Remove the onslaughts, remove the Shuris. Like, this is how we come up with the bans. I think having Lauren in the background, knowing the maths on these things, has been a massive help in that regard, at least. We coming up. We had in season 3 we had location gate as well, so we had to really start thinking of locations, because we kind of got to the point where what we didn't want teams to be doing was spending many hours grinding
just
for
waiting
a specific
for
location.
to show up
exactly.
or whatever. Yeah.
So we wanted to try and dissuade them from doing that. So we started banning certain locations, but then that then made them think of other locations that they wanted. And, they still did the grinding for locations, even when we banned some of them. So it's just like, well, you either ban them all or you ban none of them. And so we actually then later in season 3, we put the power back in their hands. So we banned a couple of our usual. So Onslaught Citadel and Camotage were banned pretty much for every one of these type of tasks. But then we said to them, we knew that there would be some other potentially problematic or helpful locations. So we put the challenge out to the teams and we asked them to come up with one location that they wanted to ban as well. And that would be banned for both teams. So they're banning it for themselves as well as the other team. So it was quite fun to do, but yeah, enjoyed it.
It's all about finding that sweet spot, because I don't want to give a list that's like, here's 80 locations you can't play on, and here's 6 cards you can't use. And so it's really like, we're trying to keep the ban list as short as possible, but still keep the tasks interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about creative tasks, which we can talk about what that means, but then we bring in a judge who helps rank the creative submissions, and Scott helped with that this season. You were a judge for one of the tasks.
Thank you. Again.
We've had some, not to diminish Scott's contribution, but we've had some really big guests on the show also.
We have indeed. So thank you again, Scott, for your task judging in season 3 for us.
I'd love to do it again.
I realized that going into sort of midway through season 2, that I wanted to try and get some big names. We wanted to see us. I wanted to see if I could use my position in the creative program for something pretty special. And one of the tasks that we had come up with for season 2 was for the teams to create a season's worth of cards. So to choose a theme of some sort and actually create a season, and then create the cards for that season with a backup idea in mind that they would then later in the season use the cards that they'd created to create themselves a dev video. And what they didn't know, and I'd kept secret apart from Lauren knew, I'd been chatting with Griffin to see if we could get Ben Brode to judge the actual entries. So they did come up with their videos. I did send them across via Griffin to Ben. Ben then recorded a video, which we then announced on the show. Because as far as the candidates know, they go into kind of the show itself not knowing usually who the guest judge was. I think we let them know it was Ben quite early on, didn't? Or was it? No, we let them know the week before for that one, didn't we? So we normally keep it secret, but it was more because of the name. It was more for a marketing point of view than anything else. And then they created 2 amazing videos and got Ben involved. And then obviously for season 3, we've had Binks, we've had It's Guest Gaming, those bigger names. Griffin himself, absolutely, came along to also judge one of our tasks this season. So it's the bigger creators that wouldn't be a candidate because they're too busy, and they're kind of too big a little bit, too big to really put the amount of time that they would need to put into the show, that we couldn't really ask them to do that, but they were absolutely helpful and wanting to get on board. And, people like SDG as well has also judged stuff in the past. We've got former candidates back. So a party came back. She was one of our season 2 and season 1 candidates. And she came back to judge our best dressed and worst dressed entries in terms of variant splits, contest. Which is a fun one we've done in every season. So it's been good to kind of get people involved.
Yeah, the Ben one, I think it's good that we gave them heads up, because both teams ended up doing Ben impressions, which was very funny. They bought flannels and wore glasses and did their best Ben Brode voice. It was fantastic. So just to give you an idea as a listener, if you haven't seen the show, some of the creative tasks they're very often designing a card. We've done a variant submission, split submission, which has gotten even better as we've added, character mastery. Actually, this is one thing that it made better: borders and flares and stuff. And we added a worst variant side contest in season 2, which was hilarious, and you get absolutely disastrous, horrifying, usually pixel variants, and you get rays going
Bananas.
and like, yeah, and some of the like the Christmas borders, like you get some really really ugly combinations, and it's just magnificent. People submit like videos. One that we did first time, this is what Griffin ended up judging, was a closet cosplay this season, and it was phenomenal. I think it's going to be a permanent challenge going forward, right?
I think it has to come back for season 4. It's so much fun, and this was the idea for this one came about because I used to do a thing on stream, which I don't really do anymore, where if I, on the collection track, if I ever drew an avatar on the collection track whilst I was live on stream, my viewers would made me do a closet cosplay. So I could literally only stuff, because I'm live at this point, I could only use stuff that's lying around the room with like nearby items of clothing, etc. And I would have to basically do the avatar on live on stream, and it was a lot of fun, but I was like, there's only so many avatars I can do with the clothes I've got literally dotted around the room, jumpers and stuff on my head to give me hair and everything. So I used to cosplay as well. I used to go to Comic-Con. I've built Iron Man suits and stuff in the past that I've been able to wear out of foam and all kinds of stuff back in pre-pandemic days. So it's always something I've enjoyed. But to make it that closet cosplay and make it sure that you cannot spend more than, I think we said we gave them an arbitrary budget of $10 for props. They can't use any owned props that would be worth more than that. So even if they owned, I've got in the background here, there's an Iron Man helmet and Ant-Man helmets and all kinds of stuff. You can't use any of that. So that is, you're not allowed. It literally had to be stuff around the house or bits and pieces you could buy for less than $10. And we had some amazing entries. It was so fun. I mean, our winner pretty much, which was Rosalie Merlin of that particular task, dressed up as Pixie. And it was a Pixie variant in the game, and she'd cut up like placemats and stuff from her house and sellotaped them to her arms, and she did all the background and everything. Like she was holding up drapes and stuff in the background and curtains and whatnot, so it actually looked like the background of the variant she wanted to do. It was brilliant. The Priesticles covered himself in foil and was Silver Surfer. Basically wrapped himself in foil.
I'll see if I can find a photo to show on screen, because it's just so funny.
It was very good. So yeah, that has to come back. Zenaid
did Sauron with lettuce leaves coming from his arms
to give himself. Anyway. I know the one from Gregor, I know you loved as well, Lauren, which was a fave. He just literally put like a silver bowl on his head and was Professor X. He found a silver bowl from the kitchen and just stood there in like a big power pose. It was very, very good. But yeah, no, that's definitely got to come back. We try and have a bit of fun with those creative ones, and it's great that the candidates really get involved with it as well, because some people wouldn't have wanted to do that, and I know there were some of the candidates, Lofku being one of them, was not overly happy at having to do it and didn't really want to get involved that much. Time zones has been a thing as well. I think for all the seasons, really, we have creators from around the world, and I really do want to try and give different people different voices the chance to be involved. But as part of a lot of the tasks is the teamwork, because you're in a team versus the other team. And when we are setting tasks, especially some of the game tasks where you have to be online at the same time as one of your teammates so you can actually make your attempts at whatever we've asked them to do, it becomes a bit tricky. And we've struggled a bit in that regard, haven't we?
Yeah, well, and season 3 was the first time where we had people in like 3 really distinct regions. In 1 and 2, we had like American and European time zones, but in season 3, we also had Australian time zones. And I remember at one task, it's down to like 4 players on the team, and they're in 3 very different places of the world. It was just basically impossible for them to collaborate with each other. It was tough. I don't know how we're going to address that problem, but
not sure.
Just realities of life interfering with the fun of the show.
Even from my side, so I was quite conscious that I would want at least my candidates to come along and be able to watch the show. And my normal streaming time, which is kind of, I suppose, 7 to 9 p.m. most evenings I stream. Well, that's like middle of the afternoon for the guys in the States, or late morning for people like Lauren. So it's a tricky one for me to be able to do that at my normal hour. So I was having to stay up late and do the show, at 11 p.m. my time. So it was kind of like 6 p.m. roughly Eastern, which was about as late as I'm probably able to go. And then we did some on the Sunday, which tends to be a little bit earlier, and that kind of seemed to work better for most people because it's kind of a Sunday afternoon then. So, people are not working, but yeah, trying to do it. I think season 1 we had them on the Fridays, and then season 2 was on either the Saturday or the Sunday. And then season 3 has just kind of been a bit of a mix. I kind of would like to get a fixed time, but it becomes very tricky because you're also managing people's own personal circumstances and the stuff that they've got going on in their lives as well. So illnesses and holidays and all kinds of stuff that happens.
I'd love to hear some of your guys' other favorite tasks you've done in game or creative from like seasons 1 and 2. Like, what are some that you thought were just really clever tasks?
Carnage, I think this season was very clever and wasn't something I would have thought of. In fact,
it's really smart because you guys were talking about like, you can get any card up to whatever power, but having something like finding other ways to do an in-game.
The other one we had this season, which again was something you would never ever do in Marvel Snap, but we got them doing, was highest total cost of cards in hand. So we wanted them to basically play with the mechanics of discounting cards and removing the discount later on, but then also using things like Moon Girl to duplicate them.
So
it was the highest amount you left in the hand.
You think the answer is Moon Girl death, and then you can have 7 deaths in your hand. But actually, we found that if you discount a card, blast it with Iceman a ton of times, and then add Mobius, you can have cards that cost way more than 8. So they actually ended up, I think the winning team did it with Stature, because a single discard locks her at 1. It doesn't matter how many times she gets hit with Iceman, she stays at 1. Then they blast her with Iceman, and then they Moon Girl her and add a Mobius.
They add the Mobius.
Yeah, like it reveals something about the game. I would have never known that.
No reason to
and you would never ever do it, would you? In the game, you wouldn't need to. And I think even like the candidate said, this is something that really got them thinking, like, what, how? Because it isn't something you would ever do in the game. So I thought that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that one. The others we've mentioned have been more the creative ones, the cosplay one, the dev video from season 2 was amazing. I'd love to redo that, but you very, very. I think the challenge you have with that one is very, very hours and time intensive. We did it over 2 weeks, and even then, just getting the videos edited, we luckily had a candidate on each team at the time that were pretty good at editing, but they were, Tripsman, which was editing for their team at the time, was up until early hours of the morning, still getting the video basically uploaded for me. So we missed the deadline, but we managed to get it. But then I obviously had a strict deadline to hit before I had to get the videos over to Ben so that Ben could watch them and then record his video to send back. And I think that for me is also kind of a bit of the trickiness, I suppose, of what goes on behind the scenes during the week. So, for the viewers, it's just a turn up once a week and there's a show and they get to find out how things have happened. For us, it's constant. You're keeping an eye on chat, you're answering questions, you're clarifying rules and regulations on stuff. You're running,
sometimes scrambling to adjust
a task
in the middle of the week.
Yeah, if we have to. You're helping to moderate kind of disputes and stuff if needed. As much as you have a team snapped in for each team, it's kind of, it's not their job necessarily to be able to answer a lot of those questions. So having a staff team there has been a massive help, because
having a staff team with a variety of time zones.
Exactly, the time zone. So generally I'll go off to bed. I'll finish a show and I'll be like, right, I've done my bit. I'm off to bed, basically. And then that's when immediately new task has been set. Everyone starts going, asking questions. And thankfully, Lauren's on a better time zone than me then to be able to answer those questions. So that's what she's been doing kind of in the background. But yeah, planning all of that and trying to hit those deadlines and have things in by a certain day so that it gives me enough time to then turn around the story of the week, pull my slides together, which is, in effect, each show is a slideshow with a couple of guests on the call that can chat through questions and stuff. In most weeks, it's a slideshow, so it's me doing a PowerPoint presentation basically on live.
But you capture
it's a lot more fun than
the
that.
Discord and there's a lot that goes into it. 2 tasks that I wanted to call out. One from last season, which was to make the biggest deck possible. That's something that you kind of do in the game, right? Like Darkhawk, there's reasons to add rocks to the deck, but you don't make it triple digits. And so that was a really fun one. And one thing that I think that highlights is for every task we have the task ticker, which is the video that explains the task. But every task has a name that we try to be clever with, and there's some jokes written in every task ticker, and that's part of what's going on behind the scenes too. So that challenge was called Big Deck Energy, obviously.
Brilliant.
And then one from this season that I liked, that I think we're going to be doing more of in future seasons, if such seasons exist. We asked for the highest power location using only cards that cost 0 to 3. Now, of course, that ended up just turning into a Human Torch task, but I like the idea of leaving it open-ended like that, where it's like, okay, here's a broad ban, and what can you do with this restricted, set of cards, but not specify you are going to be using Carnage or you are going to be making the biggest null. Just be like, figure out with this giant set of cards, or with this subset of cards, how do you make high power?
Yeah. And that one as well, where we weren't just restricting with what's on the board, we were restricting that with on the board in the deck for both sides of that board as well. So even if you're working to get together with a teammate, neither deck could have anything higher than a 3 cost in the deck.
It inherently banned a lot of problem cards.
If you're sitting there and Monster Island pops up as a location, that's voided that run. You get to the next one. So yeah, it was fun, that one. It was absolutely fun. So yeah, but like you said, it just became a Human Torch one. But even that was fun to see. Kind of, I think they have multiple Jocastas and Prodigies and stuff that were making other ones, and then a Sparky, and then they bounced the torch across the lanes, I don't know how many times, and then vipered it across to the other side and did the same thing again on the other side to make the biggest torch. It was brilliant.
They could use 2 sets of Jocastas. It was wild. Yeah. Okay. I don't know how much you want to tease about future seasons or future shows, but I know there are things that we've talked about.
Yeah, sure. So I think there will be a season 4. So happy to confirm that. As to when, I don't know that yet. There's some other stuff I've got to sort out first. I thought I'd like to have a little bit of a break between the two because there's a lot of work in the background. But we've already got in our little server, we've already got a pretty comprehensive list of task ideas that we haven't used yet. So that gives us a bit of a head start, I suppose, there. And we've always got some ideas. I do want to put a bit of a twist on season 4, so it won't be exactly like we've seen in seasons past. So 1, 2, and 3. And the other thing I'd like to do with it is get more of the community involved. So this season, for season 3, we had a couple of community candidates, people that were both people I knew from my own little streaming community, and other people that weren't necessarily streamers themselves or content creators themselves, but were really, really good. People that play the game, and they came in and they added some personality and stuff to it. So I'm not just looking for big name creators for my candidates for season 4. We'll be chatting about potential ideas. So if any of you are watching and interested, and this sounds like something that you'd like to know more about or get involved in, by all means, drop me or Lauren a message, and we'll be more than happy to have a chat with you. I'm on Discord, Devilish_play with an S on the end, plays. On Twitch, it's Devilish_play without the S, because Twitch won't let me change my name.
Yeah.
Future Lauren here. We recorded this one a couple weeks ago. Snapprentice Season 4 has since been officially announced. It's got an island twist this time, and that will affect the gameplay, hint, hint. So yeah, we still got some slots open. Let us know if you're interested. Hit up Devilish or me in the DMs. Anything else you want to plug between or besides Twitch and Discord?
I have got a YouTube and would appreciate some subscribers, but there's not much on there yet. That will change. So that is something on my list of things to do this year, is learn how to properly edit and hopefully get some of the shows up on YouTube. So you have some very early season 1 shows which are on my YouTube page. If you want to watch them, you're absolutely welcome to, but the show has got better since season 1, I think. It's gone better as, you know, season on season, we've improved. We've learned a lot. So I'm looking to build that up. And again, you can just search me Devilish_plays on YouTube, and you should be able to find my page from there. So hopefully you will have a bit more content on there to view going forward. Great.
I want to plug you, listeners. If you love like the fun part of Snap, not to say that competitive play isn't fun, but like the fun, wacky, silly, creative side of Snap, if you like that, or the community, like, you should be watching Devilish. The streams are very entertaining. You should also be watching Snapprentice. Like, keep an eye out for when season 4 is rolling around, because it is criminally underviewed for how much work it goes into it and how special it is. There really isn't anything like it in the Snap space, and it's, I don't know, I consider it a total treasure that it's something that we get to do, and that Devilish puts all that time into it. And if you're interested, if you've got the time and the creativity, I'd love to have some fresh faces competing next season.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate it.
Sure.
And thank you as well for the time, Scott. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, we'll try to have you back on to talk about season 4.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Check out Fourth Location for all for the usual things: game updates, cards coming out, limited time game mode analysis, etc. Thanks for listening. Bye.